Welcome to Men Pursuing More, the podcast for men who are committed to growth, purpose, and finishing strong. I'm your host, Roger Maupin, and here we believe that real men don't just chase success, they pursue significance. And that means showing up, not just for yourself, but for the people who matter most. Today's episode is part of a special feature on women's health because we believe men have a critical role to play in encouraging, supporting, and standing in the gap for the women in their lives. Whether it's your wife, your daughter, your mom, sister, or grandmother, this is your moment to lead by lifting them up. Women are carrying so much mentally, emotionally, and physically. Their health matters deeply, and as men, we need to be informed and proactive. That starts with listening, learning, and encouraging the women around us to prioritize their wellness and tune in to this episode. So don't just listen for yourself. Share this episode. Talk about it. Let it spark deeper conversation with the women in your life. Because when women are strong, families are strong, communities are strong. And the Men Pursuing More, we show up together. This is what leadership looks like. This is what finishing strong looks like. Welcome to the pursuit. Welcome to Men Pursuing More. I'm your host, Roger Maupin. I believe every man has the potential to push past his limits and strive for something greater. Whether you're a former athlete who is looking for what's next, a professional pushing through the daily grind, or someone simply ready to break through life's toughest challenges, you're ready to step into the pursuit of something more. Your pursuit begins now. All right, welcome back to Men Pursuing More podcast hosted by Roger Maupin. I want to welcome Major Chumley III, Kendra Whittlef, and Sarah Marchio to the podcast. And our focus is on women's health this episode. We want to encourage men to share this with all women in their lives about this podcast and continue to pursue more in all the women in their lives, wives, sisters, mothers, grandmothers, aunts, relatives, friends, co-workers, you name it. So this is the third episode of the Women's Health recurrent episode released on Tuesday at the end of each month. Hey, you know what? The three of you, let's get right into it now. And let's start with you, Major. Just share one key routine you have changed that has an impact in your overall health. So we're talking more about eating, supplementation, just one key thing that maybe helped you with your overall health.
Oh, yeah. So lately, actually, probably about 3 months now, so midsummer-ish, I've actually focused more on my mobility, ankle mobility, foot strength, like stuff you don't even really think about. And I can actually tell and notice it on the daily basis. It took a while for it to like kick in and be like, oh yeah, but like running, sprinting, it's all changed. But I did have an injury 3 years ago, 2022. I ruptured my patellar tendon on the right side. And so that's probably the worst knee injury you could have. Like ACLs are pretty standard these days, but patellar tendons, they don't really happen. They're not prominent. So that's like a whole learning curve in itself, like coming back from that. But compensating on my left side for the last 3 years, you really don't realize how much you're compensating when you're walking. And so I just jumped back into the weights after PT, not really realizing like foot, ankle, all that connects to the knee and then the hip and all that stuff. So I would say mobility and foot and ankle health has been my main focus over the last 3 months.
I'm going to keep that in mind because I kind of have a knee issue. All right. Kendra, how about you?
I'd say I'm starting to be more consistent with putting my legs up against the wall at the end of the day. So I'm in like an L shape laying on the floor with my legs up and just trying to get the blood circulation through the legs and regenerating that to get new flow. And I've been realizing a big difference with my sleep lately, actually. And I know sleep is huge with recovery and in the fitness and wellness area. And so I've been doing that either every day or try to do at least every other day, if not, but I can definitely tell a big difference with my sleep, starting that being more consistent over the last month and a half.
Yeah, we know how important sleep is. Sarah, how about you?
I would just say for overall kind of routine and consistency, something that's made a really big difference is meal prepping my daily lunches. Just on Sunday, I'll just make a big crock pot of food and then divide it into 5 sections for my lunch during the workday. And it just saves me a lot of time and energy throughout the week. And I don't have to think about it. And I don't have to wake up as early to make food. So that's been a big game changer for me.
I like that. All right, Sarah, we're going to start with you with this next question. Share with the listeners why women's health does not get as much attention as it should. I know lately it has gotten more attention, but why do you think that is?
That is a great question. I think sometimes we don't want to say something, or we think it's just us, or that we're alone in something and that it's just a personal problem, when there's probably a lot of other women that may be experiencing the same thing. There could just be doctors that maybe don't believe you or don't take your symptoms as seriously as you do. I think I did read something that was talking about how a lot of studies on symptoms and medications are done only on men and don't actually take into account how it affects women's bodies and hormones. So I think that's also something to consider, that maybe it's just still, it seems like it's been a long time since, I don't want to say like a segregation, but like of men and women's, not rights, but just their healthcare, I guess, has been
Historical bias, right?
Yeah, is what I think. So,
yeah, I appreciate that. That's, since I have 2 daughters and my wife, it's a good topic to bring up. How about you, Major?
Yeah, same. I think just more of a historical bias, the complexity of a woman's, like the female system, if you will, is so complex, right? So that's why I decided to learn all this stuff. It's, if I don't learn it, so I'm a researcher by trade, if you will, but I've always been like that, right? Like just being in fitness and health. Like if I wasn't a gym owner or a trainer, I'd be doing this for me. So I start there. So I learned about all of the female reproductive stuff for me, right? So then I can help my wife, my daughters, and people close, clients and stuff like that. And then I can help other people outside of that circle, if you will. So I think, to answer your question, it's more of a historical bias, even to the fact that like women can train like men, and then you do the research and you're like, actually they can't. So just stuff like that, even to when it comes down to working out, it's like even the workouts are different, let alone the hormonal aspect of it. For the most part, nutrition, sure, but there's even things in there where it's, hey, you probably should and could eat differently than a male, because a male generally will have a higher metabolism, given that we generally will have more lean muscle tissue, but that's not always the case either, right? So it's case by case for sure, but I think it's a historical bias, and then the complexity of the female system, and learning all that's hard. Sometimes it's just easier to just say, just do this, or don't do this, or do that. And it's, just do it the same as him. And it's, no, it doesn't work that way.
But shout out to all 3 of you, because I just kind of humble myself, because starting this, I know the importance of women's health. My wife brought it up. She was watching some of these YouTubes and then thought, you know what, I think we need to do a women's health episode. And just a shout out to the 3 of you, because I've learned so much and I wanted to learn it for myself first. And then shout out to you, Major, that you met with my wife today, and she did all those blood tests, just to let you listeners know it's important and how much she learned from it. And she's already taken action already tonight. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
so for all you listeners, listen in, not just the women, but also men too. So
absolutely. Get your blood work done.
That's right. Me too. I'm going to be next. Kendra, let's go to you.
Pretty much Sarah and Major kind of summed it up in a way. I think from like my view and like what I've heard and seen regarding like women's health not getting much notice is probably just understanding the female body and all the stages that it goes through, and that people are sometimes interested in how the women's bodies work, and some are like, yeah, cool, like it doesn't affect me in a way. So it's like all comes down to if they're truly interested in it, and like if they are, awesome, and how they want to approach the knowledge. But sometimes a lot of people are just not interested enough that they care, obviously, just because it's like people, like close friends and family, but they don't like care enough, if you want to say, to like really take a deep dive. They just want to know the basics and think that the basics are enough to know.
Yeah, that. Can I expand on that? So ultimately, it's a very complex. Women are like we keep saying that, and so it starts from the top down. And when I say the top down, I'm talking about your general practitioner or your doctor, right? And they're just like, oh, and when they're poo-pooing it and throwing it to the side, it just happens when you get old. And it's okay, maybe it does. So then it's fine. And then I potentially could live for another 30 or 40 years just living like that. That is natural and normal. But there's so many of these interventions that we can do now, right? There's GLP-1s, there's HRT options. There's so many different things that people can do to better their situation. And it's not a shortcut. It's not cheating the system. It's not cheating hard work, right? Because you could be doing everything to a T, everything right, quote unquote, and not get a result. Why aren't I getting a result? Calories matter. Hormones matter as well. It's not just a calorie equation or just eat less of this and do more of this and you'll get the result. It's no, actually you can create more of an issue if you do that. So it's not just as easy as that, but that's what we say and that's what we do. And that's not the case.
Yeah. I think for the listeners, it's listen to the three of you, but also start right now, reach out to someone. Don't make it, we're just sometimes making it so hard on ourselves. So going on to the next hot button, because I've heard this question, I shared it with Kendra and Sarah earlier, but so I'm married and I have 2 college-age daughters, and I know women have brought this up. I have a sister, and someone will wonder about the topic on menstrual pain and how women have to miss work or school due to these medical challenges. So what can be done to better educate the public about this? And I remember when my daughters brought this up, I'm like, oh my goodness, this should be something that should be addressed. Sarah, let's start with you.
So this is something that I don't have personal experience with, in the sense that I don't typically get cramps at all. So it's not something that I've ever had to deal with. I did have a best friend growing up who did have excruciating cramps, and they would just be doubled over in their bed or on the couch that week. And it was not something that I could understand or empathize with, but it's something that definitely affected her all the time. And so I think this was obviously a while ago, but what always worked was some sort of heating pad, typically over that area, but that's just for cramps in general. But I don't really know in general about it being like getting days off of school or it being that bad when I went to school.
Yeah, it's hard because someone like personally that went through it, but just sometimes when they're going through it, you just don't know how they'll be able to function throughout the entire day, what they're doing to help the situation. But how about you, Major?
So obviously, I don't experience or haven't experienced that. Usually starts in your teens and 20s when you're going through that. But some of the things that you can do when you're experiencing, so it's really inflammation, right? That's really what we're talking about. It could be nutrient deficiency, so magnesium deficient. So that's where, diet, right? So most teens and 20-year-olds don't eat the best. And so that's where Sarah or even Kendra may not experience something like that because their diets are typically or in check at this point. So like they may have had these issues in their teens and 20s, but now that their diet is in check, they got more hormonal regulation, hormonal balance, stress, cortisol, like all these things are in balance at this point. So you're going to potentially experience less of that as you get older, but then you could have clients that they might be going through something like that for a couple of weeks. And that's typically due to hormonal changes, right? So that's what we're talking about is like hormonal changes, whether that be stemming from diet, right? Because your hormones change all the time, and they can change at a drop of a hat, right? Literally, you could be feeling completely fine. Boom, you get a phone call, or you see a phone call that says Hennepin County Medical Center. You're like, your heart, boom, just cortisol goes up. What's going on? Right? You answer the call. You could be hungry. You get that. Boom, hunger shuts off. Right? All this stuff happens at a drop of a hat. Same thing with these menstrual cramps, if you will. Pretty much anything. So the interventions would be cleaning up your nutrition, anti-inflammatory diet. Mediterranean is the best option for me, in my experience. Mediterranean style eating, keeping your blood sugar in check, glucose down, regulated. That doesn't mean you can't eat carbohydrate, right? It's what carbohydrates are we eating? And then some sort of chasteberry can help with that as well. A lot of the times you'll see these younger teens going on birth control at 12, 13. And what that does is it's going to then create another hormonal problem down the road, right? Because we got to get these cramps under control. And then while you're doing that, you're creating another issue that they haven't even they're not even able to really work out yet, because you put them on this birth control when they were 13. And that's just what we do here in America, right? Like, you're willing to put these young girls, impressionable girls and females, on hormones. But if a doctor were to give a male testosterone when he was 13, it'd be like, what are we doing? The same thing goes to giving a teen kid progesterone or estrogen. It would be progestin, which is fake, and then or estrone, or like some sort of estradiol mimicker. So yeah, it's crazy. Right. And I can go on and on about it. But
it sounds like you could, and that could be maybe a whole nother topic.
That's a whole nother one. There's so many rabbit holes within the fitness and health and wellness space, especially on the female side of the equation, because it's almost new data or new territory for researchers and things like that. And even myself, I'm always learning. It really comes down to diet, nutrition, anti-inflammatory. And then there's some things you can do, right? A lot of times it'll just be like, give them the NSAIDs and stuff like that, and Midol and stuff, but that's just putting a Band-Aid over a broken arm.
All right, Kendra, how about you? You'd like to add to it, or what else would you like to share about that topic?
I actually am one to experience excruciating pain. TMI, but I got my cycle in 5th grade, and I can still remember it to this day, where I left school early. I came home, curled up in my mom and dad's bed, just bawling in tears, just from being in so much pain. And eventually the heating pad was my best friend. And then I would take Advil or Aleve to help reduce the crampage, but it was brutal. And I still experience it to this day. And I've tried the pill, which has helped. It definitely reduced the cramping, but I still experience, just not as severe as I had in the past. And I've experienced, or I'm trying to see better and healthier options that are out there. But right now, this is going to sound really bad, and obviously I'm working on it, but Diet Coke and pretzels are my best friend during that time. But yes, the pain is brutal, and I've left work early half the times. I make sure I have Aleve or Advil with me while I'm at work so I can survive, but I'm trying to cut back on using medication, trying to be take a healthier approach when it does come to cramping, but I just haven't found the right one that my body works for. But yes, the pain is brutal, and it definitely makes its announcement when it's there, and definitely needs to be more well approached and more awareness for women and men, just to get a better understanding.
Kendra, I appreciate you sharing your personal experience on this, and as well in what you just shared about how it can kind of disrupt your like work. It can disrupt your education because you couldn't, I mean, it's like trying to function at school and you have to go home early. So that means you're missing classes, or like your work. Let's say you have to miss a meeting, or you need to make up this work. Or you need to come in like on the weekend and make this work up. And so no, I appreciate you sharing that. Let's move on to, we're talking about what your diet and food. And I think this is a great time to, Major, we're going to start with you. Share with the listeners the importance of protein in your diet. I know we've heard this before, and certain food groups we should stay away from or limit. So what we should be taking, and then maybe a few food groups we should stay away from.
Okay, so I'm going to actually start with the latter. So I'm actually all inclusive. Everything's included. It's all about, right, there's seasons, right? There's different seasons of when you can or when you should allow yourself to have whatever it is, right? And when I say seasons, that could be seasons of life, that could be seasons of the year, right? So I love ice cream, right? So I don't know that that's a secret for most of the people that know me. I love ice cream. I love cake. I love all those things. But when I want to get a result, and when I say result, that means whether it be lose body fat, tighten things up for whatever the summer, for baseball or athletics. I can't have ice cream like I normally would have ice cream, which is every day. And I could, I just probably wouldn't have as much, but really that's what it comes down to. It's how much. Everything in moderation, even moderation. So moderation in moderation, because if everything was in moderation, then I can have that in moderation. And then now moderation turns into consistent, rare, like every day, right? So even moderation in moderation. So I tell people that too. And so some of the things you can do for that is, hey, just tell yourself like no 2 out to eat meals in a row. That's easy, right? So it's not a rule, it's a guideline. So I'm going to try not to eat 2 out to eat meals in a row. Now, if you're traveling and on vacation, that's difficult. But when you're in your day to day, your 9 to 5 work week, and you're going to Leanne Chin's and Chipotle and all these different places. Now, those are like Chipotle is fine. Chipotle is, but even that every day, it's okay. Let me make a meal and then bring a meal, right? So nothing's off limits. I say all that to say nothing's off limits. We just moderate how much we have of said thing that we want. And then for that as well, I say plan your week out. I'm like looking at the week. It's okay. I got a wedding on Saturday. I know there's going to be cake and ice cream at that. So probably should stay in my shoes during the week and allow myself to have that on the weekend. Or if nothing's really going on this weekend, oh, there is a barbecue on Sunday, or the football Vikings are playing. I know I like pizza and wings. I'm going to stay in my shoes Monday through Thursday, maybe go out on Friday, but then Saturday we're eating in, and then on Sunday we're going to order pizza and wings. It's just stuff like that. Inventory your week. These are like things that you don't necessarily have to negotiate. You just inventory your week and plan it out like that, just like we do for everything else. But when it comes to our food, our beloved food, where it's how we make concessions with ourselves. I deserve X, Y, and Z because whatever reason, right? We give ourselves these get out of jail free cards to ourselves. But if it was someone else, it would be like a little bit more harsh on them, but we go easy on ourselves. Hey, you probably shouldn't do that. But on ourselves, I deserve this. But nothing's off limits. It's just in moderation. For protein prep, that's one of the main things that I preach. Even if you're not going to track calories and protein prep, because that's the one macronutrient. If you don't know what a macronutrient is, proteins, carbs, and fats. That's every time we eat, we're eating one of those 3 every time. It's just in different ratios. Protein's the last thing that most people will go for or reach for when they're out and they need to grab something quick. So if you protein prep, you can always bring protein with you, right? Even if it's ground beef, ground turkey, chicken breast, thighs, it doesn't matter, whatever one you like. Protein prep it. So then when you're in those quick pinch situations, I really don't feel like making any dinner. Right? I got chicken. So now I can just put some veggies with it. I can put fruit with it. I can put whatever with it and maybe make some rice. And then now you have a meal. So protein prep is huge. And that goes, like Sarah mentioned early on, prepping her lunches. Protein prep for your lunch, so then you can just put anything with it, or you can just eat the protein, right? It's okay to not have a side. But if we're going to eat, or when we eat, have protein with it. If you're going to have ice cream, even have protein with it. That sounds weird. Hold on, that's chicken breast on my ice cream. No, it would be more like eat the protein first, then have the ice cream. So now now you'll eat less of the ice cream and you'll stay full, or you'll be full and then you won't eat as much ice cream. So there's so many different things we can do, and that's just one of them, or a couple of them.
All right, Sarah, let's move on to you. What would you like to add to that? What like Major shared?
I was just say I'm pretty much of this similar philosophy to Major in regards to nothing's really off limits. But that's to say, I guess I don't really crave certain types of foods. So I lean more towards natural fruits and vegetables. Obviously, I'm a big fan of carbs. So I eat a lot of pasta and bagels, that sort of thing. I guess the things I would stay away from are like hydrogenated fats, a lot of things and labels. If I can't pronounce them, I usually am like, I probably shouldn't be eating that. Or I know there are different apps out there that rate different foods. I think Kendra actually was telling me about one she saw or has the other day, and it'll rate it based on different factors, based on the ingredients, manufacturers, if it's tested for different things. So I just would say I lean more towards kind of whole foods, as well as foods with the least amount of ingredients in the nutrition label.
And some of those you can't pronounce, so you may want to, if you can't pronounce it, maybe.
Probably, I don't know what this is or why it's in here. I don't know if I should be eating this. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Kendra.
I'm more of a snacker than a big meal eater. So like when I try to choose a snack, I try to look at what has the most protein of what's available, and that way it'll keep me full longer, and I won't just have the boredom munchies, like eat because you're bored kind of deal. So I'm more of try to look for like snacks or meal prep like Sarah does, and try to focus heavy on the protein because it's going to help keep me full longer. But yet I'm the same with Major. I love a good sweet. So if I want ice cream, I'll throw like fruit and nuts in there just to help balance it out. And so I don't feel as nasty afterwards having a gross stomach. So like berries and nuts will help balance that out. But yeah, it's like moderation, just getting creative in what you're looking for to help keep that healthy balance.
Hey, Kendra, what's the name of that app that Sarah talked about?
Actually, it rates your supplements. So like all the ingredients in the supplements. My mom actually got me hooked on it. It's called Suppco, SUPPCO, and it rates your vitamins and the supplements you take. So like the protein powder I use, it was rated like okay, almost on the poor side, good, okay to poor. So it's interesting just for all the ingredients that they just list in the background and how they judge it. But yet the vitamin D K3 that I take was rated okay to poor as well. But the magnesium glycinate I take was rated like high in the good and green area. So it's just really cool just to see what vitamin brands you take and how they are rated. That's called Suppco.
That just goes back to when we do eat, if you can have more of a balanced meal. She mentioned balance in there. And what that means is like a ratio of protein, carbs, and fats. And why that is because your body will absorb or slow things down. So then we don't get these crazy spikes of insulin and things like that. So if you can balance your meals, especially if you're going to have carbohydrate, if you could have fat and protein with, that's going to slow down the absorption. And then that's going to help you stave off any additional potential fat gain that you could get even if you overate.
You were made for more clarity, more confidence, more impact. At Maupin Coaching, I help high school and college athletes master the mental game and guide men into purpose-driven leadership. Grab the sports book, rock that merch coming soon, and step into more. at maupincoaching.com. So with that, the topic we're talking about like protein, any of you three like to add anything more to that topic on protein? Because I know it's a hot topic. And if not, we can go on to this next question on supplementation. So if not, let's go on to this about supplementation. So share with the listeners about the importance of supplementation and maybe certain supplements that should be beneficial for your overall health. You're in your 30s or you're in your 50s, whatever, you need to be taking this one. And then there are certain maybe supplements you need to be taking as you kind of age. So Sarah, can we start with you?
Sure. I think obviously it's going to depend on your diet, because what supplements really are supplementing what you're not getting from whatever you are eating throughout the day. That typically you should try to get as many and as most vitamins and minerals from actual whole foods in your meals, I would say, but there's always going to be some sort of gaps somewhere that you need to fill. And it can also have to do with where you live. For example, in Minnesota, as winter's coming up, vitamin D and K3, that's a big one for me personally. Mine was on the very, very low level. So I now take that daily. And I can even tell, with my moods, that definitely helps to keep it stable. So I've definitely noticed that's one that I do take every day and is beneficial just based on where we live with the lack of sun in the winter. I also think creatine is awesome for anyone and everyone. It is naturally occurring, but it is good to have every day, just if you're trying to build muscle and get stronger. So that's another one that I do take, I would say, daily also.
What's interesting, you talk about vitamin D, because there's been a lot of talk, I would say probably in the last 5, 6, 7 years about vitamin D, the importance of it and the research on it. And so I appreciate you sharing that, because there's a lot of talk about vitamin D out there. Kendra, how about you?
Going off what Sarah said, I'm one that does take the vitamin D K3 every day. I realized it was about probably end of summer, right before the weather started changing. There was a week or two where I was just like groggy and blah, and my energy and my mood was just not where it normally is. And I was only taking 5,000 units in the vitamin D K3, and I actually upped it to 10. And within a few days, I could see my energy, my mood, my vibe was just back up to where it was in a couple of days. So you can tell how your body's feeling and what is needed. Like the longer you take supplements and the more you get to know your body. So that's definitely been a big eye opener for me. And I do a 3-in-1 probiotic, prebiotic, and postbiotic. And so when I feel groggy or like I eat something gross or wake up the next day just not quite feeling it, I'll take that powder and I just pour it in some water and I drink it with my meal. And that kind of helps my gut health and lining as well. And I probably say those are probably the two that I probably focus on the most. I do a magnesium glycinate, which definitely helps with ADHD, if that's what I have. And that's been a big help with me. But not only that, my muscle cramps, because I get Charlie horses quite a bit, especially at night. And I know magnesium does a great job in relieving some of that as well. So those are probably the three big ones that I like to emphasize on.
I think one takeaway is that magnesium, because you hear a lot of people, I know my sister, I have ADHD or I take this and that, and just the kind of importance of magnesium to help with a number of things that you talked about. So appreciate that. All right. How about you, Major?
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of the same from me. There's a couple other ones, but I'm not a huge supplement guy, to be honest with you. And when I say huge, that's outside of the ones that were already stated. Those are phenomenal. A lot of people don't really realize vitamin D is not it's really not a vitamin. It's the precursor to all hormones. So it's non-negotiable. If your vitamin D is low, no wonder you don't feel good, right? Like vitamin D is the number one supplement, especially when you live in Minnesota, this time of year, start getting it in. And then creatine is one of the ones where so many people, it's the most studied supplement ever. And it's the best supplement that you can take outside of vitamin D. that order of importance is phenomenal. If you're 35 plus, you should be taking it. It's cognitive. There's so many benefits. We could go on and on about that. But L-citrulline, so that's going to be a pathway of just blood flow. So they all kind of work synergistically together, but L-citrulline is one of my go-tos. A lot of people use it pre-workout and those types of things. I actually like it before bed. It just helps me sleep better. That's when you're recovering. So that's when, to me, it's at its utmost importance because that's where recovery happens. You're not recovering when you're awake. You're not recovering when you're tearing muscle tissue down, like in the gym. And so L-citrulline is fantastic. A couple different ways you can get it. You can do pill form, but I like powder. And I just put it in my water and I just drink it. And it's fantastic. Vitamin D, creatine, L-citrulline. It's pretty much, if you want to do a multivitamin. Oh, and Relight, that's my hydration powder of choice because that's going to have magnesium, it's going to have potassium, it's going to have sodium in balance. Now, if you have high blood pressure, people get bent out of shape. Oh, my sodium. So guess what? You need sodium. Even if you have high blood pressure, you need sodium. It's just the McDonald's and the Wendy's and the things like that aren't going to help that. That you got to stop those first, but you still need sodium. So Relight or any sort of hydration powder, they're not all created equally. Creatine monohydrate, L-citrulline, and vitamin D.
So you're saying hydration is important? So it's important that we stay hydrated.
And so here's the thing that hydration just doesn't mean drink more water. Because when you drink more water, you can actually become overhydrated. So when you're peeing out clear, that means you're actually not absorbing any of the water. You're just peeing it out. So your pee actually should be like a light lemonade color. And so that's going to let you know more, but you'll hear just pee clear and you're good. And so, no, actually not. You can dehydrate yourself if you're just peeing clear.
Oh, I appreciate that. I was kind of joking about the hydration. I know how important it is, but I appreciate you talking about that being overhydrated.
But I wanted to double down on it and just actually say, because people hear hydration and they just say, oh, drink water.
Yeah.
That's not the case. Hydration is electrolyte balance, right?
I appreciate you sharing that with the listeners. So also educating me too on that. So that's great. Oh, I wanted to ask you another question about, because people wonder about this. And I think, Kendra, you brought it up. Someone can address this about IUs, because some people say, what do you mean by IUs? Because all I see when I look at a supplement, I see like megagrams, I see MCG, MG, and then I see how much is in like percentage. But share with us about IUs and how, I mean, I think you can go online and do the conversion, but just share with us what IU means and how do they find out, okay, 50 milligrams of whatever, let's say in the vitamin D, how much IUs would that be?
I'll answer this.
Thank you.
So international units. So that's now I actually don't really worry about the conversion, but international units is what that is. So typically you're going to see anywhere from 250, 500, 1,000 IUs, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. They'll typically, and you can find, as far as vitamin D, those are going to be in IUs, international units. Most other supplements will be in milligrams or micrograms, MCG or MG, and 1,000 micrograms is 1 milligram. So like that conversion converts that way, where you get, 1,000 micrograms is 1 milligram, but IUs to grams and milligrams and stuff like that, I don't know that one, and I don't think it's really necessary, because when it comes down to vitamin D, that's going to be typically in IUs. So that's how that goes.
Okay, appreciate you clearing that up and addressing that with the listeners, because I know some people would wonder about that. What am I looking for? I think you can find out so much online how they convert things, so I don't think it's probably an issue. And All right, let's move on to share with the listeners about the importance of pre and post workout drinks or supplements. We can address that a little bit. That would help in your fitness journey. So how about we start with Kendra?
I'd say for the longest time, I would refer to a pre-workout, whether that's a Celsius or C4 I don't like Monsters, but any energy drink of some sort, that would be like my warm up or like my motivator to get me going, that energy boost. And as over time, I realized they may or may not be the best options. So ever since working with Sarah and Major over the last 3-4 years now, I've been just trying to do the Relight hydration option and get that. Usually gets me going because that salt will get my mouth going and give me that energy. And then every now and then I'll do the Relight. They have a pre-workout product that I've done a few times, which has been great. It's not like I don't get like the jitters or the shakes or the tingles at all. So I'll sometimes refer to that every now and then. And then post-workout, I just do a scoop of protein powder, mix that with water, and on my way I go. It's been an easy, go with the flow kind of routine for me, and simpler the better.
So having something for the pre and post and not like a Monster or like some you drink for the pre.
I mean, I'm guilty. I'll have an energy one every now and then, but I've cut back big time. Let's put it that way.
Appreciate that. How about you, Sarah?
I would say it depends. I can't eat something too heavy before I work out, or at least I'd have to wait like an hour or two. I think just because sometimes heavy lifting, if you're pushing too hard and you eat too much, that just doesn't end well. But I don't take anything, I would say pre-workout wise. I used to take pre-workout. Oh, sorry. My phone wants to die. Sorry. I used to take pre-workout and it was like C4 or something, and I would get like the tingles and jittery and stuff. And then I think I got dependent on it, where if I like didn't have it, I was afraid I wasn't going to have a good workout and like psyched myself out that way. And so I just decided to stop taking one. But I do tend to always take a post workout. I guess it'd be a shake. It's just a combination of protein powder and what's called ignition, but it's basically a sugar, so a quick absorbing carb to put it back into my glycogen storage.
So, Sarah, what do you take during your workout? Do you
Similar to Kendra, I drink Relight, which is that hydration supplement throughout. Sometimes I will also drink a combination of amino acids or essential amino acids and creatine for just a little bit more endurance throughout the workout as well.
Okay, appreciate that. You sharing that. And how about you, Major?
There's a lot of things you can do. Obviously, I don't typically do any of it, to be honest, completely honest. People look at me like I have two heads. They're like, what do you take pre-workout? I will say this. I drink some sort of caffeine in the morning. That's typically pre-workout. That's my pre-workout. And that could be just like coffee. I used to do Monsters. I don't do them anymore. Once I found out that was the cause of like heart palpitations for me. So I was like, nope, no more of those. So I'll do coffee. I'll do like a regular coffee, black sometimes, but it's really just the caffeine that I'm trying to get in. Some you can even do a no dose, like a half a no dose, and just take that just to get the caffeine in. Pre-workout, I used to do a lot of gummy bears back in the day to get that glycogen restore. So Sarah mentioned it doing her, I think it's probably a dextrose base or something like that. That's mainly for performance. And it's not necessary for people that are just looking to shed a few pounds and stuff like that. Now, if you're looking to go next level, yeah, absolutely. Like you can dive into these minutia things or these minute details, but it's not required. But I used to do gummy bears or like some sort of sugar Gatorade or something like that. Just sip on it while you're lifting. That's going to help put back the glycogen that you use during your session. And that's going to help you get better muscle contraction, better pump, better gains and stuff like that. And I would typically do that with some creatine in there because that's going to shuttle the creatine to where it needs to be and those types of things. And post-workout, I used to do the 30-minute window after the workout. After learning that that's not necessary, I just get whatever protein needs that for the rest of the day in. It's not a bad idea. So I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm just saying it's not like you don't have to run to the car and get this shake in. It's 29 minutes post workout. I'm not going to get my gains. It's not like that. If it's 30 minutes, half hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, your body's going to know what to do with it because it's going to say, okay, we did what we did 2 hours ago. We need what we need 2 hours later. So it all work out if you work out.
Touche.
I like that. What about during your workout? Do you do what they talked about?
I do Relight, absolutely. Relight's in my bottle all day. I wake up with Relight and I go to bed with Relight all day.
So you probably have Relight. You're probably preparing it right now before you go to bed?
Yeah, actually, it's already prepared. It's always prepared. I don't leave home without it, and we keep it at the gym. And when I leave home and when I'm not going to the gym, like to work, I'm bringing Relight. The Relight is the one non-negotiable for me. Hydration, powder, and with that, you're good to go, right? If your body has, so our body is 70% water, right? So that should tell you all you need to know, right? Like people are talking about building all this muscle, and it's guess what? If you drank more water and hydrated, your muscles will be bigger. It's just how it goes. It's interesting when you break it down like that. It's dang, yeah, that makes total sense. That's why when you compete and you do all this water manipulation, people are like, oh, so you cut water, right? So you can like shed down. And it's actually no. We drink more water and then we taper that down, but we actually drink probably double the amount of water that most people drink. And then the day before the show, we may cut it like down to a gallon or 3/4 of a gallon, but you're still drinking more water before your show than most people drink in a day. So you're not cutting water. Water is the most important thing that you can put in your body outside of the vitamin D in your protein.
You think that's the case in most competitions? Like someone who competes in basketball, like what they're doing leading up to it, and then on the day of the game?
Absolutely. So just do this math right here. It's easy math. Boxer has to make weight. Wrestler has to make weight. What do? They jump in the sauna or the sauna, ever how you say it, or they shed a bunch of weight, right? And then guess what? Then they gain 20 pounds. Why did they gain 20 pounds? Because they started drinking water again. They made their weight, and then now they're up what they were 2 days ago, right? So you make your weight, and then you rehydrate, and you put that weight back on. So now you're strong and you're ready to go. It's not science, it's math at that point.
All right, appreciate it, Major. So let's go on to, I know we addressed this before in the other episodes, but I think we just keep coming back to this one about sleep because everybody talks about sleep. I'm not getting my sleep. I'm waking up in the night, getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep. What am I going to do about my sleep? So share with the listeners. Let's start with you, Sarah. Share with the listener what the best evening routine for better sleep and what can women do to help improve their sleep and the importance of sleep in their overall health.
So I know we mentioned a little earlier magnesium. So I know I get my magnesium in Relight, but I also have a couple different products that I sometimes utilize as well, like a topical magnesium cream or a spray also that's just absorbed through the skin, obviously. But that's very important and definitely helpful to your body for sleep. Another thing, I try to be in bed or go to bed before 10 p.m. I've read some studies that say that really affects your body clock. So if you're a person that consistently wakes up at the same time every day, it's important to go to bed at the same time every day and hopefully before 10 o'clock. But obviously it depends on your work schedule. But those are some of the things that I utilize to be consistent.
Sarah, just to let you know about 10 o'clock, it is already 8:40 p.m. on a Monday night. So this podcast is going on for another hour and a half. So I don't know if you're going to make the 10 o'clock.
If I start snoring, just yell.
Major, how about you?
Yeah, sleep is, I say one thing and then kick myself because then I'm like, no, that's important too. One of the most important things you can do is drink water. And then it's actually one of the most important things you can do is get good sleep. Yeah, it's one of the most important things you can do is try to sleep well. That is dependent on everything that went on that day. It's dependent on some hormone stuff, actually a lot of hormone stuff. Cortisol depends on where you are in your cycle. If you're a female, it depends on where you are in your stress. If you're anybody. So the best thing you can do is try to anchor your weekly sleep schedule by trying to have more of a plan. Like these two gals here, they are on it. I'm not as great. I'm not regimented like that as far as like when I fall asleep. I get a lot of my work done before I go to sleep, right? So that's limit the screens and the blue light and stuff like that. I wear blue light glasses, literally they're like orange, where I literally see orange. But I'll go to bed maybe 1 o'clock one day, and I might go to bed at 11 o'clock. It varies. I'll typically still get 6 to 8 hours. I'm not one to say, hey, you need to get 8 hours, because it all depends on how you function on the sleep you get. Just same thing like money, right? No matter how much money you make, how do you spend that money, right? So you can make anything work. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's optimized. And yeah, my sleep isn't, but I get 6, 7 hours. It's really about the quality of sleep that you do get. So using Oura rings and stuff like that, these sleep trackers are nice if you can make that happen. I know it's tough to wear like watches and stuff. Some people don't like that, but it's nice to have that data and data points. But ultimately, have that sleep schedule. And then when you wake up, if you can get, sunlight directly in your eyes when you wake, that's going to help with your circadian rhythm and just making sure that your sleep cycles are on point. And I mentioned caffeine a little bit ago. That's going to be huge into playing into your circadian rhythm. So limiting your caffeine after 10 a.m. if possible. I would say 11 at the latest. Noon, you're pushing it, because now you're getting that half-life of the caffeine. So now that's pushing everything back. And then you could get into this wired and tired situation, and then you're not going to bed till 10 o'clock. So if sleep is an issue, to where if you're not getting sleep or at all, and you're waking up tired and groggy, then you obviously need to make some concessions on what you're doing prior to that. But yeah, that sleep wake cycle is crucial. And if you're lacking sleep, then you got to correct it. But for me personally, I'm not going to sit up here and say, yeah, I'm in bed by 10 o'clock. That's not me. I'm just getting started at 10 o'clock.
So I appreciate Major, as well as Sarah, the do's and don'ts. And a lot of takeaways from there, just what you do your overall day. But I like how you brought up about the screen time too, like what we're doing right now. That can affect how you're like the blue light, blue waves you talk about, or wearing some type of glasses, or what you need to do on your screen. So just little things like that can help along the way each day. And all right, Kendra, how about you?
A combo of what they were saying. I think the biggest thing for sleep wise is just, at least like during the work week, Monday through Thursday, try to be consistent. And consistency is going to be a big one. And like you said, limiting the screen time, like about half hour right before you're going to go to bed, because that's going to help shut the brain down a little bit and not have all these thoughts going left and right, a million miles a minute. And the biggest thing, like I found helpful for me, like I said, mentioned earlier, was putting my legs up against the wall for 15, 20 minutes. Or if you can do it or have the money for it, I'd recommend the compression boots, either by Therabody or by Hyperice. Those are a big game changer as well. That's going to help the blood flow as well. And there's a few times I have legit fallen asleep in the boots because they feel so good. So it's like a guilty compression on the legs too. So it's definitely, if you're on your feet a lot during the day, definitely recommend doing the legs up against the wall, or finding some kind of like compression to help
Blood flow.
get the blood flow going. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you can't do the Normatex or the Hyperite, though, like the L-citrulline. So that's what I was talking about earlier, is where that comes into play for that blood flow before bed.
I appreciate you sharing that, Kendra, just because there's some people that like on their feet a lot during the day, and they just can't wind down, and they're in bed, and they're like, oh, I've been in bed for 2 hours and I need to do something about the circulation. And so I appreciate you bringing that up because I've heard that from others. All right, let's wrap this up, and we're going to start with you, Kendra. What are some final thoughts you want to leave with women and also with men, but especially with women who are listening to share with women in their lives on women's health and also to share with women?
I'd say just check in with your friends and family, see how they're doing and like how can they help you, and don't be afraid to ask questions, whether it's regarding your cycle or whether regarding your fitness, wellness journey, or just nutrition facts in general. Everybody enjoys learning something new. So definitely keep asking questions and find what works best for you and not compare it to somebody else's schedule, because what they have may not be the best for you. So just keep working on it and try new things and see what is going to be best for you moving forward.
And come listen to this episode. All right, Sarah.
I've probably said this before, but find an accountability buddy, whether it's for workouts or foods, or even if it's like you want to try a new recipe, you and your friend try something new or try out a new workout class together, or just keep each other accountable for the goals that you have for each other. Because I think it's a lot more fun to do stuff with someone else. And it's also a lot harder to say no if someone else is counting on you to show up. And it's a lot easier to not show up for yourself when you can come up with excuses. But I think letting friends down, it's a lot harder, at least for me personally. I'm less likely to bail on a friend than to talk myself out of something where I'm like, maybe I don't really need to do that, or wake up this early, or I can have that. So I would just say find someone that you care about that has similar goals to you and that you trust. And I think that would be a really successful friendship and relationship. And you don't have to wait till New Year's Day. You can do it right now. Do it today. Yeah.
Reach to that.
There you go. Accountability. Do it now. All right, Major.
Yeah. So for me, everything is connected. So all of these things play on one another. It's all connected. The body is a open system. It's not closed. The goal is harmony within the body, not perfection. So just because you can't do one thing doesn't mean you can't do anything. I say it all the time, test, don't guess. Get some lab work done. It's a couple $100, HSA, FSH, ever how you need to get it done. You'll thank me later. Nutrition is the foundation. Nutrition is obviously the foundation of what we're all here on earth, right? We've been doing it for lots of years, right? Nutrition will make or break, or could make or break, what you're trying to do in the gym, outside of the gym. And strength training, one of the best things you could do just on the outside for your body. Strength training is your metabolism. And then lastly, stress management, recovery management. If you can do those 5 things to some degree, some level, it doesn't matter what level it is. I say the level that you can do them at, progress, not perfection, you'll be good to go. You'll be in a good spot anyways. So those would be the main takeaways that I would give people. And if they have any questions, you can reach us. We're here in Minnesota, but we reach people all over. Anytime Fitness in Bloomington. We got a phenomenal staff, phenomenal members, phenomenal clients. 952-881-6102. Give us a call if you have any questions. Honestly, I'm reading lab work. Like you mentioned, I worked with your wife today, gave her all the lowdown on what was going on, and we're just here to help people. That's all we're trying to do.
Can you repeat
your number? Doing.
Can you repeat your number again?
952-881-6102. That's the gym number. Reach out. You can email us as well. East Bloomington, MN at Anytime Fitness. We can make it happen, Captain.
Major, Sarah, and Kendra, thank you so much for your willingness to share and be on the podcast. And going right back to where can listeners find and follow you? Let's start with Kendra.
You can find me on Instagram, Kendra, KendraAAWHITT.
Sarah.
I would be on Instagram, I believe Sarah Marchio.
And Major.
You can find me on Instagram, physique_architect, or the Anytime Fitness Bloomington, like I just mentioned before. And yeah, those are the spots where you're going to catch me.
All right, that's a wrap with Major Chumley III, Sarah Marchio, and Kendra Whittlef. And I want to thank you for being a part of this special episode of Women's Health and a Men Pursuing More podcast. Hey, thanks for listening to Men Pursuing More podcast. Don't forget to follow us at maupincoaching.com.